Imagine being born inside a palace where everyone bows before you because they believe your blood is divine. Yet to preserve that sacred bloodline, the person you are expected to marry is your own brother or sister. It sounds like the plot of a dark fantasy, but for some of history's most powerful dynasties, it was official policy. From the pharaohs of Egypt to the emperors of the Inca Empire, royal incest was celebrated, not condemned. But why would rulers deliberately break humanity's deepest taboo? And the answer reveals a chilling story where absolute power collided with the unforgiving laws of nature. For most of human history, marrying a close relative was considered one of the gravest taboos imaginable. Long before modern genetics existed, societies instinctively recognized that something about it was deeply wrong. Evolution even equipped us with a psychological defense against it, a natural aversion that helped protect future generations. Yet something extraordinary happened whenever a family climbed to the very top of the pyramid of power. Suddenly, the rules that governed everyone else no longer seemed to apply. Kings, queens, emperors, and divine rulers began marrying their own brothers and sisters. Not in secret, but in magnificent public ceremonies celebrated by entire civilizations. What ordinary people viewed as forbidden, royal courts praised as sacred. But here's the question I want you to think about. If you had lived in one of those ancient kingdoms, knowing that your ruler claimed to be a living god, would you have accepted this tradition as holy? Or would you have dared to call it madness? Leave your answer in the comments before we continue, because history becomes even stranger from here. This wasn't an isolated custom practiced by one unusual civilization. It appeared again and again, across continents separated by thousands of miles and with no contact between them. So what invisible force convinced completely different cultures to reach exactly the same shocking conclusion? To answer that question, we must first travel to the banks of the Nile, where one of history's oldest civilizations transformed family into religion, and blood into political power. Ancient Egypt offers perhaps the most famous, and the most controversial, example of royal incest in human history. To modern eyes, it appears shocking, but to the Egyptians, it made perfect sense. The pharaoh was not simply a king. He was believed to be the living embodiment of Horus, destined to become Osiris after death. And according to Egyptian mythology, Osiris and Isis were not only husband and wife, they were also brother and sister. In other words, when a pharaoh married his own sister, he wasn't seen as breaking divine law, he was fulfilling it. Or was he? Here's where historians continue to debate. Was religion truly the reason? Or was religion merely a convenient story created to protect absolute political power? After all, marrying outside the royal family could introduce ambitious in-laws, rival bloodlines, and dangerous claims to the throne. But by keeping marriage within the family, every crown, every temple, every piece of land remained under the control of a single dynasty. So which came first? The belief that royal blood was sacred, or the desire to keep power locked inside one family? That's a question scholars still argue about today. And the evidence becomes even more unsettling when archaeology begins to uncover the real physical consequences of these royal marriages, hidden for thousands of years beneath the sands of Egypt. Legends are powerful, but archaeology is unforgiving. For centuries, royal inscriptions celebrated these marriages as symbols of divine perfection. Then modern science opened the tombs, and the story changed. One of the most famous examples is Tutankhamun. DNA analysis published in 2010 revealed that the young pharaoh's parents were almost certainly full siblings. Suddenly, many of the mysteries surrounding his fragile health began to make sense. He suffered from severe skeletal problems, walked with the aid of canes found inside his tomb, and likely endured constant physical pain despite ruling the greatest kingdom on earth. Think about that for a moment. If you possessed unimaginable wealth, unlimited authority, and millions of loyal subjects, but your own body was slowly failing because of decisions made generations before your birth, would you still call that true power? Or would you call it a curse disguised as a crown? Tell me what you think in the comments. Was royal incest primarily about religious belief, or was it simply a ruthless political strategy dressed up as divine tradition? I'd genuinely like to know where you stand before we uncover the next civilization. And here's what makes this story even more astonishing. Egypt was not unique. Thousands of miles away, with no contact whatsoever, another empire reached almost the exact same conclusion about blood, royalty, and absolute power. Cross the Atlantic. Leave the pyramids behind. Climb high into the Andes Mountains. You might expect everything to be different. Instead, you find the same astonishing pattern. The Inca Empire had never exchanged ideas with ancient Egypt. Their languages, religions, and histories evolved independently. Yet the Sapa Inca, the supreme ruler, was also expected to marry his own sister, who became the Koya, the empire's highest-ranking queen. Why? Because the Inca believed their rulers descended directly from Inti, the sun god. Only someone who shared the same sacred bloodline could produce a legitimate heir worthy of the throne. Now here's something fascinating. The same idea appeared again in ancient Hawaii, where children born from brother and sister unions among the highest-ranking chiefs were considered almost divine. Coincidence? Or does this reveal something much deeper about human nature? I'd love to hear your opinion. Why do you think civilizations separated by oceans, with no contact between one another, invented nearly identical royal traditions? Was it religion? Politics? Or is there another explanation we haven't considered? Because once we compare these cultures side by side, a disturbing pattern emerges. Whenever rulers claimed to be more than human, preserving pure blood became more important than preserving healthy blood. And history shows that nature eventually demanded the price. For centuries, royal families believed they had discovered the perfect formula for preserving power. Keep the bloodline pure, keep the throne secure, keep outsiders away. On paper, it looked brilliant. But biology doesn't negotiate with politics. Every generation of close relative marriages increased the chances that harmful recessive genes would be inherited together. Modern genetics explains what ancient rulers could not possibly understand. The more limited the gene pool becomes, the greater the risk of inherited disorders. Ironically, the very strategy designed to create stronger dynasties often produced weaker heirs. So here's a question for you. If you were the chief advisor to a powerful king thousands of years ago, but you already possess today's knowledge of genetics, would you dare tell him to end the tradition? Or would you stay silent, knowing that disagreeing with a ruler believed to be a living god could cost you your life? Pause for a second and let me know your answer in the comments. There isn't a perfect choice, and that's exactly what makes history so fascinating. Perhaps the greatest irony is this. These rulers believed they could control destiny itself, yet they could not escape the invisible laws written into every human cell. And that leaves us with one final question. If even the mightiest empires could not defeat biology, what does that teach us about power today? History leaves us with an unforgettable lesson. Again and again, the world's most powerful rulers believed they could rewrite the rules of nature. They built magnificent palaces, commanded vast armies, and convinced entire civilizations that their blood was sacred. But no throne was powerful enough to change biology. No crown could erase the consequences of generations of inbreeding. In the end, nature always had the final word. So before we finish, I want to ask you one last question. If you had been born into one of these royal families, knowing your marriage could protect an empire but also endanger future generations, what would you have chosen? Duty or humanity? Share your thoughts in the comments. I read as many as I can, and some of the best discussions happen there. If you enjoyed exploring the hidden truths of ancient civilizations, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications. Every week, we uncover the forgotten stories that history books often leave behind. And in our next documentary, we'll investigate another mystery that shaped human civilization. Why did ancient humans start wearing clothes in the first place? Was it really to survive the cold? Or was clothing originally invented for a completely different reason? The archaeological evidence may surprise you. Until next time, keep questioning the past, because the deeper we dig into ancient history, the more we discover about ourselves today.